Welcome to day 4, my lovelies. Creating art that celebrates the wild world reminds us that we belong to something vast and beautiful beyond human conflicts and confusion. Your consistent practice is both personal medicine and cultural healing. Every stroke of pigment is an act of connection. This is how we remember who we really are, and it's through connection that change happens. All right, I hope you enjoy today's video.
I'm going to look at this shadowy bit here around the edge of the bird, make that the darkest. And there's a bit of it towards this edge as well. The light's coming this way. And then I sort of fill this in, going the same way that the feathers go. My main concern is going to be to make sure that she's so much darker than her signets. So we don't want to get too light anywhere. We want to have that relative value comparison. Now look at the roundedness of form here. So the feathers are coming this way. I'm not going to draw each feather, but I can move my pencil in a way that describes those feathers without having to draw each one or each set. And I've got a bit of a flat spot on my pencil at the moment, which is actually kind of ideal for what I'm doing here. So I'm making little arcs. Knowing that the feathers come down this way and around, and follow the form around that way. I'm going to give the impression of very lightly going to go over some of those lighter areas I left just to bring them all together, because they're not bright white. Well, there is a couple of little highlights, and I want to make sure that I go dark enough around the signet so that they stand out. And your little beak is really dark, but it's not as black as Mum, and there's actually a little highlight in there. But I'm just going to give it a small bit of colour here. A little line that goes up to their eye. We really can't see much of their eye or anything. And then just really light little bit of value in some of the areas there. I want to leave the majority of it paper white. Don't worry about all the scribbles and stuff that have come from finding form. They're fine. They show that you had to find the form. You had to move the pencil around. Oh, look. Hello, darling. Look at you. Let's do a little bit of watery movement there. And then the same with these little ones. So a little bit of dark around the edges and where their shadowy areas are. Up off the water, around their little faces. And I've created a bit of a wedge on my pencil now by having a flat spot. So I've got a couple of areas that I can get some detail, some sharpness from too. So it's not a bad thing to do, or to keep that in mind as you're working too. So I don't want the head of this little fellow to be an outline, right? So I want to bring in some value around and make this guy in the back a little bit darker. So there's not a heavy outline anywhere. shape of the beak from front on. And then this little one. This one we can sort of see the edge of the beak a little bit, the ridge on the top a bit more, so I'm going to add that in. And then I want to make sure that I get some darkness underneath here and around the top of the head. Oh, sweet little babies. Okay, look at that. Let's just get a little bit of soft movement of the water around, just so that they're not sitting on nothing. As you can see, as we've added more value around, you need to add more again. So let's get a little bit around each baby. Look at the connection between them all. We were very lucky. During lockdown, at the end of the road is a watershed, so a stormwater collection. It's a little bit of a wetlands, and during the COVID lockdown, there was a pair of black swans down there who had 6 cygnets, and they've nested there multiple times before, and always ended up with 1 or 2 getting to adulthood, but all 6 got to adulthood, and I really do think it was because we were allowed to walk, 5 kilometres around home, and so many people got to see and revere and wonder at these little lives as they were growing. And I think that collectively we sort of protected them. And there's a bird outside my window making a terrible noise. Okay, I'm going to work on the lionesses now. A different relationship again. Some beautiful connection, just sitting together, contented. I've got one. I'll make sure that I've got enough room in here for them both. And I do tend to get a bit excited and draw quite large, so working slowly to see if I can bring enough head space in there. I really don't mind if my drawings intermingle on a page, so think about that. If that is bothersome to you, you might want to make sure you leave a bit more space, but I actually quite like the idea of my drawings interacting with each other. Let's try to get the square of their muzzle to make sure that I've got enough space between them. Look at this shape between the two of them. Don't let your brain take over and tell you what you should be drawing. That works quite nicely, actually. Good one. Here we'll come up and into there. Really take your time and observe. Our brains are really good at getting in the way. Just work really lightly. Find your shapes. The shape between them. Big square jaw. Yeah, I like that. All right, squeaky chair. Let's try and come in and define some of this a little better. I'm going to come in first looking at this shape that's between them. Her nose is a little in front of her sister's. That chin. Really big noses. Nostrils. Nozzles. Coming straight up, we've got the other eye here somewhere. Relaxed, half closed. Got the light colour underneath. Bit of a flattening. It's a bit flatter. Oh, gorgeous girls. Okay. This nostril comes up a little bit higher here. I need to sharpen this pencil. It wasn't terribly sharp to start off with, so before I do all those details, I want to do that. The brow line, the midline. Need to pull this brow forward a little bit more, just a little bit. The ear. On top of the head. This ear is pointing away and listening to something that's going on over that way some way. A little bit of flat and then rounded down to the shoulder. The end of the ear is pointed this way. Look at the way that the angle of this eye comes pointing towards the dark of the ear. We've got a skeletal structure coming down here for her jaw. Big square jaw. Oops. A little bit of darker of the neck